for your generation. Amen. You're going to have a double treat today. Amen. Your life has purpose for your generation. The term generation is a term used to define years, roughly 30 years when a person have offsprings. A generation would be that your parents lived and then now you're here and you would have your children, so that would be 2 generations. Back in the 1940s to 1964, they had a term called baby boomers. My mom was a part of that group of people, and they're probably between 54 and 76 years old today. Then there's this new generation. It's called the Generation X. Those are the people that are 39 to 53 years old. Then there's those millennials they call Generation Y. And those are the people maybe 24 to 38 years old. And then there's a new generation they call Generation Z. Those are the ones that are 3 to 23. Either way, either place you may find yourself, you're still living in your generation. The question you have to ask yourself is, what is your purpose in your generation? God had a purpose in the early generation for Martin Luther. And this is not King, this is Martin Luther. He started the Protestant movement. God's purpose for him was to turn the church from the false teachings of the Catholic Church back to him. God also had a purpose in the generation of John Wesley. He's the founder of the Methodist Church. God used Wesley to fill the people with purpose and bring back the spiritual gifts for his generation. Then we have Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an activist and pastor who promoted and organized nonviolent protests. He played a pivotal role in the advancing of civil rights in America. He also won the Nobel Peace Prize for his effect of fighting racial injustice and inequality. And last but not least, there's this gentleman by the name of Malcolm X. Malcolm X also was an activist, outspoken public figure. He was a person that was a part of the Black Muslim movement, or Black Muslim faith, challenging mainstream America about civil rights movement, and he urged his followers to defend themselves against white aggression by any means necessary. You don't have to like who they are, but you have to respect what they did. And when you think about your life, you are created for your generation, and you're created for purpose. God has a purpose for all of us, for our generation, and it is our duty to discover what God has called us to fulfill and to serve God's purpose. Oftentimes, we will look back at our generation, and we will look back even at our parents and their generation, and we will say, oh, they're just old folks, and they did old ways, and we're the new generation, and we got new ways of doing it. Oftentimes, church, everyone have to do things for their own generation. There's even things that my mom may even tell me today that was applicable for her then, but not for me now. That was often thought of that my mom, pastor, told her that, you know, if you rent a place and you pay over $200 a month, you ought to be buying. Well, you can't buy much nowadays with $200. But that was part of her generation. You know, they picked cotton all day, and they picked sweet potatoes and did peas by the bushels and didn't make much money. And even in her generation, the best she probably made would have been probably when we got up to about $335, maybe they made $365, which is a big difference in pay, but there's a big difference in cost. Everything is in this generation. Even myself growing up, I can recall when gasoline in Marion was 69 cents a gallon. I can remember when it went to 79 cents. That was during my generation. Now the new people have to deal with $2 and $3 and $4 a gallon gasoline. Cars are more efficient now. Things are different in different generations. And so when the Bible was talking about David serving God, David had mandated to himself that he was going to be on fire for God. Samuel came to David around the age of maybe 14 to 17, and he anointed David to be king, but David never took the throne until he was 30 years old. And sometime in our lives, we may think that God has forgotten about us because we didn't get it instantaneous. But it's because that God has a plan that's not always our plan, and he knows when he wants to do whatever it is he's going to do. Oh, I can remember 30 years ago, there was no microwave. If you wanted to warm up something, you used the stove or you used the oven. Now you put it in the microwave and get it hot. I'm not saying it's better. Maybe sometimes instant karma puts other things in our lives. Maybe we're drinking a little radiation now because we want it faster. We want it quicker. You know, there was a day that we didn't have microwave popcorn. We had the little silver container, and you would put it on the stove. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And that little thing would just kind of come on up and explode for you, and there was your popcorn. I remember when you would make coffee, you would have the little coffee that'll whistle to you, let you know when it's ready in our generation. And I'm just telling you today that things have changed but God has not changed. God said, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. Isn't that good that God hasn't changed when we've changed? Even with us changing our minds about what we're going to do, God said, I'm still here. He said, I'll never leave you and I'll never forsake you. And I'm sure that even some of us in our best days wanted to leave God. I can recall starting the church up. I had been a pastor associate pastor of a Baptist church, and I went there just for a little while and found myself there for a couple of years and didn't know any of the etiquettes about Baptist churches. And here every time I had a chance to preach, I'm prophesying to people and laying hands on people. And I'm thinking, man, I'm like a fish out of water. But God had a purpose for me to be where I was. God has a purpose for you to be where you are. You're most effective when you're in God's purpose. Huh? You're most effective when you're in God's purpose. And oftentimes in life, church, you may think that it's easy, but Elijah lost his focus. When the man Elijah came to Elisha, he was a little off focus. He thought maybe I need to go home and take care of some things. He didn't quite understand the call he was making. But he told him something. He said, but if you see me leave, you get a double portion of that anointing. See, church, sometimes we want that double portion, but we don't want to be there with you. We don't want to stay. We don't want to hang in there. We lose focus a lot of times on the things that God has for us. Even Joshua. Joshua's dealing with some people we'll call the baby boomers. Those people wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years. God had already told them, I got a land full with milk and honey for you. You can have this land. But there were some old people in the bunch that said, oh no, we can't get them. Oh no, we're like grasshoppers to them. Instead of telling yourself about your problems, tell your problems about your God. Tell your problems that I can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthens me. Tell your problems that I can make it and I will make it. Tell your problems that was yesterday, that weeping may endure for that day, but my joy has came in the morning and now I'm ready to go forth and take everything God has for me. That's right. But instead of them marching on into the promised land for 40 years, they walk around in circles because there's somebody in their generation dealing with a Joshua in his generation and it just doesn't work. But God said, you know what? I'll let them down. And when they down, we'll be ready to go. See, church, sometime in our generation, we bring on tradition. Sometime in our generation, what you used to do, it was good for then, but it doesn't work now. And you're still trying to make it work. Well, that used to work. That used to do this and that used to do that. Times have changed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every once in a while, you have to go back to God. And you have to seek some new advice. Right. Lord, what shall I do? Right. Oftentimes in life, church, none of us know everything and can plan for every situation. But we serve a God that knows all situations. Right. We serve a God that never fails. We serve a God that knows yesterday from this day. He said, I'm the Alpha and the Omega. He's all that stuff in between. In other words, God has a book in heaven. Right. He talks about it in the book of Psalms. He said, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that I was formed. He said, when you was there and no one else was there. He told Jeremiah that I knew you before you was formed in your mother's womb. Right. Well, ain't that amazing? That God knew your great-granddaddy before he met your great-grandmama. That's right. And he was thinking about you. He knew that they may not be able to do it, but you would do it. He knew that David was such a warrior that he wouldn't build the temple, but he said, Solomon, you will be able to build it.
God knows everything, church. And sometimes as we go in our purpose, we get so offended because we get defeated at times. Not that we get defeated from the standpoint that we've lost the battle. We get defeated in our minds because it didn't happen instantly. And we're saying, God, you told me this was going to be like this. He said, you know, they sing the song about don't remove the mountains. Give me the strength to climb them. But faith said, throw the mountain in the water. He said, cast it into the sea. That's what faith said. You ain't got to be trying to climb nothing. He said, resist the devil, he'll flee. Faith don't say climb mountain. Faith said, tell those mountains to get out of your way. I'm going through. That's what faith does for you. But see, there was a time that people wanted to climb the mountain, go around the mountain. I just don't want to deal with the mountains. I'm in a different generation. We're in a different generation now. When I grew up, they would tarry for the Holy Ghost, and they would sit there and they would chant for hours, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And that's the way they did it. And as I got older, I understand that when they told them to go and tarry, that the word tarry just means to wait. And I know now that I can just wait on it. And when you wait on, I don't have to chant for him. I don't have to do anything mystical for him. All I have to do is receive him as he received me and be filled with the Holy Spirit, be filled with power, and know that God is with me, that he'll never leave me, that he's called me to do purpose. He's called me to do some different work, and I am anointed to do it. Right. Church, when you're anointed to do something, it's like the stuff you use, you can't lose. When you're anointed for something, your purpose will outweigh any problem. It will outweigh any circumstances. Sure, things will come up against you. He said, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. He didn't say it would not form. But that's not your problem that it formed. Your problem is that it won't come against you and it can't sustain itself. And when we begin to operate in purpose, we begin to know that God is a God of a second chance. And as I thought about Samuel, the Bible said that Samuel was with Eli when he was just a little boy. He heard a voice from God. How many of you ever heard the voice from God? How many of you ever heard that little still, quiet voice from God? You said, at times I would be home and I'll hear like a doorbell ring. I'll be in the bed and it's like ding dong. And I'll get up. I said, Felicia, did you hear that? She's in the living room. And she said, no, I didn't hear anything. I'll go back and lay down again and say ding dong. And I'll get up and now I learn. When I hear that sound, I said, Lord, what is it you want to tell me? Because God's trying to get me up with that sound. And I learned to be sensitive to that sound for myself. Lord, what is it that you want me to do? And God will begin to speak to me. And the things that he speaks are not mystical things. But man, it be so deep. I'm like, God, is that you? Are you? Anybody? God ever told anybody something that just blew your mind? And you just like, this can't be you, God. Wait a minute. But you know, when you begin to hear the voice of God more and more, you become so sensitive to it, and you begin to know, you know what? That is God speaking to me. Right. You know, and I know there are generations of people that will try to hide it, and I know that we take that secret closet term real literal, like secret closet. Man, you can have church in your car. You can talk to God in the shower. You can talk to God on the job while you're getting chewed out by your boss. You can be saying, God, peace be still, that God, this thing shall pass. You can talk to God anytime. You ain't got to run into your little closet. You can talk to him. He said, I want to be your God and I want you to be my people. You're in a generation now where the veil has been rented. You have access to the holiest of holies. You have access to the kings of kings. You have access to a God that never fails. And God giving us this access in this generation. Yes, sir. What are you going to do with your access? Right. Man, there's some keys we have now in this generation that's unlocking some locks that's been locked for years. Y'all hear what I'm telling you today? There's some things in this generation, I mean in 2019, in this year, that God is unlocking, that he's releasing people that's been shackled. That, you know, you remember that song, shackles on your feet won't let you dance, but you can unshackle yourself and you can dance till you get tired. You can dance the dance of David. You can dance. You can have a good time in God because he's releasing some things. Over in Taiwan, they would take baby elephants and they would tie a chain around a little baby elephant. And that elephant would try to pull, and that elephant would just stop because the chain was so heavy on his leg. And as he got older, that same old chain, anytime he got a little resistance, he would stop pulling. And as he got older and grown, you could tie a little string on him, a little rope on him. And whenever he gets a little resistance, he stops pulling because his mind has conditioned him to stop pulling. Now that elephant could pull a stake out of the ground. He can move a car out of the way, but his mind is conditioned to stop pulling. Some of y'all mind is conditioned to stop pulling. Some of y'all mind is conditioned that, well, this is just the way it's going to be. The devil is a lie. It's going to be the way I want it to be. I'm going to decree and declare the way I want it to be. One thing my mom tells me all the time, as she gets older, she's 74, she says she's going to live until she gets satisfied. Amen? And that's the way you ought to look at life. I'm going to live until I get satisfied. I'm going to have what I want when I want it. Not when you want to give it to me, but when I want it. But church, I'm afraid that we've got so complacent in our generation. Oh, God ain't doing that now. God is not doing miracles now. God is doing miracles all the time. He's doing things so subtle you don't even see them taking place because you just begin to walk in it and not know that God is doing it. You know, every time you get up in the morning, that's a miracle. But not just that you got up, but you can start your day, that you close in your right mind. Isn't that a miracle? There's some people that don't know if they're here or not here. There's some people that are sick, shut up in a bed on their backsides and don't even know if they're here. But God has woke us up and He's telling us to get up. Now, what are you going to do about it? Serving God in our generation. And as I begin to think about the purpose of our generation, what is our purpose? Well, your purpose probably is not my purpose. And I think that's what kind of bothers us sometimes. You know, I was thinking about those that came to the church and those that have left the church at some point in time. You know what? Either you came here on purpose or you made a mistake in coming. Amen. So sometime when you leave, your purpose is over. And it's not that you failed in the assignment. You fulfill what you were called to do. All the great martyrs of this world, even with Dr. King, never lived to be 50 years old. John F. Kennedy never lived to be 50 years old. Malcolm X never lived to be 50 years old. Some people come into this world to make a statement, to shake up some things, and that's their fulfillment. Your purpose in this world may not be to do what I've done, but it's to do what God has called you to do. And you're going to be successful in what He called you to do. You know that little old woman they talk about that wouldn't get out of the bus? You know, she said, I ain't getting out of my seat. Miss Park said, I'm not getting out of my seat. That was her purpose, to start something with the buses because you've been getting out of your seat too long. She said, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to ride this bus, or we're not going to ride at all. I'm going to choose where I'm going to be. And that's the problem with some of us. We'll let other people choose when God has ordained you, God has equipped you, that you can make the choice. He said, anything you ask in my name, I'll give it. He said, knock and the door shall be open. Seek and you shall find. He's telling you, what do you want me to do for you? But some of us sit back and say, well, God, I don't know. Come on, man. I don't know. When opportunity meets purpose, there's some greatness to take place. That's right. When opportunity meets your purpose, there's some greatness to take place. Plenty of times, young people, you want this great whatever it is in life you want. Most of the time, it's equated to some form of money. But you're smoking too much weed, you can't pass the drug test. Huh? You're staying up too late, you don't even want to get to work on time. So when you begin to purpose yourself, I will get to work on time because I don't know when my opportunity going to come. I'm going to start smoking weed because I might need to be able to pass this drug test. And when you begin to understand that God orders your step, I'm going to give my life to God. Sure, I'm young. Nothing is better than being young and filled with the Holy Ghost. Nothing is better than being young, being able to speak in tongues, being able to declare and decree what God can do, what God has done. Nothing is better than being young and being able to do it. That's right. Oh, I know a lot of people come in when they got old, but see, they got old and came in when they broke down. But a young man still full of vigor and vibrant, and he hasn't done all of that stuff. And he can come to God with some form of clean hands and some form of a clean heart. And he can begin to shake, rattle, and roll this world and begin to tell God, God, we are going to take this thing. We're gonna do this. But some of us, you know, we're still like Gideon. Come on, man. But we have great purpose. But we're still kind of a coward. And it's okay. Because God calling your cowardice mighty man of valor, mighty woman of valor. But you're still a little skittish. But God said you're going to do this. And I understand you're a little nervous about it because you're the first to do it. You know, being the first to do something sometimes, it ain't all this cracked up to be. Sometimes when somebody paid the way, boy, you can walk in that thing and that's all right in it. Huh? Y'all remember me telling you the story about my kids? We're going to play Monopoly. Monopoly starts off with $250. You play Monopoly and start off with nothing and see how long you can stay in the game.
You're right.
Huh? Oh, you might spin and you might advance yourself, but if you get in jail, you don't have any money to get out.
Right.
If you land on some property I own, you got to pay it. Right. You see how it is? It's all right when somebody paved the way for you to tell you, well, I'm going to advance you something. I'm going to get you started in this world with something, huh? And God is telling us that He wants to get us started with something. Why? Because the cattle on 1,000 hills is His. Huh? That's already here. And if they're His, they're ours. Because I am a joint heir to Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So the days of walking on the back of your shoes, you know how you walk on the back of it? Oh man, put your shoes on your heel, man, and get to walking. Huh? If your heels is all cracked up, put some Vaseline on it. Huh? It's time for us to do what we got to do while we got to do it. Huh? Man, we're in a game called life. And sometimes you don't get some do-overs. Sometimes young people, if you make that mistake of not trusting what God is telling you, it can put you in prison for a long time. It can put you in the graveyard.
Yes, sir.
Church, I'm telling you today that in our generation, we're going to have to be men and women that are really showing that God is in control of our life. We're going to have to stand up and not be on the back side, but come up to the front side. We're going to have to be people that say, yes, we can.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have to be people that defines our own. We're going to have to define nature in the fact that they saying you can't. You say not only can I, but I am doing it. We are going to rewrite history in 2019. History is going to be made by us. Y'all hear me today? We're going to be the first to do a lot of stuff. Because with God on our side, we can't lose. He's looking for somebody that will go in His name, in His power. It's not by our might, nor by our power, but it's by His Spirit. And the Spirit of God is what's inside of all of us. Activate the power of God in your life.
That's right.
Quit taking a back seat. Quit saying what you can't do. Quit being defeated. Quit letting things sidestep you from your purpose.
That's right.
So many times we're sitting up here thinking that life has done us wrong when you've done yourself wrong.
Come on now.
By not elevating your way of thinking. And don't get me wrong, church, and I'm fit to pass the baton. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being content. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't be complacent.
All right.
You follow?
Right. Yes, sir.
You can be content, but don't be complacent.
That's right.
Huh? If you want to be where you are, then that's fine. That's being content. But don't say I can't go any further.
That's it.
That's being complacent.
Yes, sir.
Amen?
You're right, man.
And you make the life you want to have. You do what you want to do in this life. Why don't we begin to be game changers? Why don't, instead of you going into something, somebody defining for you, why don't you say where you want to go? Do what you say you want to be and become what you say you are.
That's right.
Why don't you begin to change your way of thinking? Instead of being a victim that everybody is against you, if you be for you, you become your best advocate. You become the person that say, I am somebody. You become the person that say, I can do this. So many times we're defining ourselves by other people. If they don't want to hire you on their job, create your own job. Become your own entrepreneur. Start your own business. You sell a service. Instead of us sitting back saying, well, they don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. It's your generation. And it's your turn now. Amen? Amen. Brother, say.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Praise the Lord, saints.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. I'm just going to stick with purpose. Amen.
Amen.
This is 1 Kings 5, 4, and 5. But now the Lord my God hath given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurrent. And behold, I purpose to build an house unto the name of the Lord and God, as the Lord spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son, whom I will set upon thy throne, in thy room he shall build a house unto his name. Now this is very interesting here, because some people would distort the fact they think that one thing is their purpose, but it's actually someone else's.
All right.
David was under the impression that I'm going to be always very interesting. If you go into some churches, you have the pastor that's 94 years old, but yet no successor. Nothing set up to bring a successor. Well, I ain't moving until God tells me. I'm certain, and I promise you, God is sending you to groom somebody for your position. Didn't he anoint David and said, David, I'm going to make you king?
That's right.
Sent David back where? Right back out to the sheep. Because there's a training ground. Even though you're going to be king, I'm not putting you on this throne yet because you still got some growing to do. The mindset is not developed. And I think and I'm going to piggyback him with this, there's a lot of emphasis in the church now that they're placing on the youth. And sometimes I think it's a little bit overboard. I heard one say that, oh, they wear their crouch all the way down and their pants way down there. Okay, I remember the hot pants y'all had that was cut way up here. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And you talk about the girls that dress too tight, don't even try to take their shorts was, okay? And now they want to get on people's hair. Let's not get on these ridiculous afros all the way out here, amen? But what they want to do, they still want to point fingers at them. And I was looking and I went on campus. Do you know you got students out there that wear their pants down here that are 4.0 students?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have people that come to the job where I am the director of human resources that has their pants like that. They're never late. That does an excellent job. I'm not there to judge their exterior. I'm here to judge the content of their character to make sure they get to work on time. But where do we get to the point to think there's external things? We are so stuck on the outer cup. We're not giving any attention to the inner cup. God looks on the what? The heart. We have become so critical of everything and everyone. Now check this out. When we think of the word purpose, everybody said, well, what am I supposed to do in life? Now, let me ask you a question on this. God said he chose Abraham because he knew he would teach it to his children. Now, if you and your children have a mindset somewhere of mediocrity or not good enough, where they get it from? Come on. I remember when I was 12 years old, I was sitting in the middle of the house, I'm looking around, and in my spirit I said, this is not me. This don't fit who I am. It was not the surroundings I'm supposed to be in. And so I began to look all around me and looking for a male figure as a mentor. And I'm like, I don't be like any of these people. I just didn't see it. And when I did hear the conversation, it was about how many women they got, how many children they got. How can you brag on having 20 children? You can't.
Come on, man. Come on.
Who's going to select him as a mentor?
Come on, man.
One of them was in construction, and he was a bricklayer, masonry, and had a son, and took the son out there to be a brick mason doing the same thing. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, well, if he's the son, shouldn't he get him a general contractor's license and let him run it all? No, I want him to do just like me, work his way up. For what?
Come on, man.
Wait a minute. Our ceiling should be their foundation.
That's right.
Why should they have to go suffer through the same crap we went through when we can guide and motivate them and direct them on the right track, on the right purpose? But no, we're so stuck in a mindset, glory be to God, that we think when we take our children through absolute hell. All right? Has anybody ever heard the term mental parenting? What do your parents always say? I got a roof over your head. I got shoes on your feet. I got clothes on your back. And I feed you. Wait a minute. Ain't that your reasonable service? Did you ask to come or did you decide to do your thing and then bring me? That wasn't my choice. But there's a mindset there that it's almost just unbearable because we let children bring mediocrity to us and we accept it. Mama, I got 3 C's and 2 D's. At least he passed. What?
All right.
What kind of standard is that? My baby paid. My baby, and you out there telling people. I would have been in bed. What did she just do for this child? She just set the bar.
That's it.
And the bar is way down here. And see now, this child mindset to. Or want to. We are so critical of things that we could have controlled. I don't think God gives nothing about somebody's head and how whether it's nappy or not. But I know one thing, he looks on the heart. Huh? But so now we become this generation that every time people come to church, they come to get beat down. Oh, always too many liars in the church. Oh, adulterers and oh, fornicators. Okay, hold on. If you don't teach people who they are, they can't be who they are. Now, the Bible says that we were made kings and priests under God. You know when people get ready to study counterfeit money, they never look at the counterfeit. They only look at the original. Why? You don't need to know what the counterfeit is. Huh? So let's look at this. Are you going to look at me as a king? Or are you still looking at me as a servant? Huh? See, they still look at us as a servant. No, I'm a king now. You should change the way you ask me to walk. You should change the way you ask me to talk. You know what I mean? When you see me, you need to see that this is royalty walking in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No. Oh, you so still good. So it's okay for me to be slouchy, acting crazy. But when I walk upright, when I realize that I'm a royal, because that's why born again means, okay, you messed it up over there, now I'm going to give you a new birth. A new set of rules. And in these rules, you are a king and you are a priest unto God. So therefore, it is my responsibility to raise my child up in the manner in which they should go. So now, we have a child in Christ, and we still let them come to church to beat them down instead of building them up so that they know who they are.
That's right.
And if all you do is go to church to get a beat down, I become addicted to the beat down, and I never get any change. It's the same thing over and over and over again. But the Bible says there's a season, there's a time, and there's a purpose for everything. When I post, I'm a human resource director. When I post things at work, and some of these positions $3, $4 more an hour, I walk the warehouse and say, hey, this position's $3, what you need to do? I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't blame them. I know y'all think I should, but I know. Because they have to pick that mindset up from somewhere. So I'm not blaming children for parents' failure. And it grieves me, and I keep walking through it, and I'm like, what in the world? I mean, even at $3, that's another $120 a week. That's like a brand new car by the time you finish the month. Huh? And then one guy was getting ready to get married because his girlfriend was pregnant. I said, this is your perfect opportunity, because I'm under the thing that he's going to be all over this request because he's got a wife and a child coming along. So I'm thinking that you want to improve the quality of life for them, right? I don't want that responsibility. Dude, you just got a wife and a child. What greater responsibility is that going to be? But where did he get that thought from? His dad? Or no dad being around at all? And see, so I think what we're doing, we're attacking the wrong thing. At the church I attend, we have 8 teachers and we give free tutoring. Free. Why? If a child is failing with this, and we can see it's failing to us, let me just go ahead and see that. Okay, you got to grade A and B honor roll of that. Don't wait till they graduate and then they fail. All right, we come to church, we give our tithes, we give our offering. The church should be giving back. Right? You understand what I'm saying? So, on top of that, nobody goes on an interview without telling me, and I take them through a mock interview.
All right.
Because this is what I do. Right? Nobody submits a resume until I read that resume, adjust that resume to the job that they're looking for. What am I doing? I'm changing the way a generation thinks now. Right? Right? So now, back in last year, I took the church through financial management. Credit cards, interest, banking, all of that. The works, right? So now in doing that, I said, now everybody raise up your hand and tell me what is your credit score if it's between this and this. Half of our college kids had bad credit because something that their parents needed. Putting the children's names on things. And now when they graduate, they can't go out and get an apartment because you got their credit all messed up. church.
That's right.
Anybody can come in and be shouted at. Anybody can be come in and be pointed at, or to be demeaned. But to see what the problem is, right? And as we see what the problem is, we need to put a course of action in place to correct it. What they doing? And some of the older people, church, what you doing all this stuff? I mean, this is the church. And they got mad at me. I said, you know what? I'm not going to hold you responsible. Because unfortunately, just because you're old don't make you right. It just makes you old.
Right.
Do you hear me? Because let's be for real, some parents try, they're never wrong. The devil is a liar. Because what was acceptable in their generation, getting up before it was dark and going to bed when it was dark, nobody I know in this generation gonna do that. No, you better go get some other things. They're not gonna do that. But we gotta get back and start dealing with the things that affect our community. And once our children are strong, they're making successful, they're starting new business, they're doing all these things, guess what automatically gets strengthened? The church. Because now they got better jobs, now they're bringing in tithe, now they're bringing in offering, and guess what? As they begin to thrive, the church begins to thrive.
Right, right.
It's interconnected. It is time out for us being bad parenting. I'm not talking about not giving your children what they need, the basic. They're going to get that. But I'm talking about when it comes to their career and when it comes to being successful. A parent should never stop, even if that child is 25. Maybe I still see that you got a business and you're going to give birth to that thing. Come on, somebody. Hey, ooh, I see that life. I see that prophet all over you. Just prophet. Hallelujah. Glory be to God. And what I have them do, and a church I started building, especially with small children, said, come here, king, somebody. Come here, queen. Huh? And I said, every time they leave, every time they go in, let's start speaking into them who they are. Right. And not what the world says they are. Right. Another thing I want to address. Stop making your children a little pooper-doo. They was pooper-doo at 3 years old. They're not a pooper-doo at 30. Right. They didn't get to go to work. Amen. If you're 18, go to work. Amen. For some reason, we got 30-year-old people still at home. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that the parents keep enabling it. They should be cutting the grass, doing all the work in the house, and let them know that you got to get up and go because while you're here, it ain't going to be easy. Matter of fact, you can make them cook if you have to. But it's got to be some set of standards in place to make sure they don't get addicted to just being at home. Some people that's home that's 40 years old and still having mama clean their room. And she don't pay them. I know it sounds hard, but it's not. It is time for us to join the 21st century to build our children up to be mentally prepared to what they're going to embark upon. Let's get them out of this mindset. Here we go to work and work 9 to 10 hours a day to make somebody else rich. But we can't come home and sit down, stir our ideas in us, and give 2 hours to our own business. Is that not crazy? How many know that jobs are not designed to make people rich? Jobs are designed to make somebody else rich. The owners get rich from that. But when you have your own business, guess what? The money comes to you. Well, they don't want you to do that. Why do you think they only give you 2 to 3%? And I'm in this position so I know. Huh? They give you that because they're not going to give you enough money to go start the same business they got because you'll be a competitor. Let's stir up in our youth a more positive approach, a more positive image. Not always beating them down because of what they wear or what they look like or things like that. Let's start instilling in him who they are or who she is. They are kings and they are queens in the kingdom of God. That's what they was. Don't let the residue of baggy pants or the residue of a tight dress think that they're not kings and queens. They're still a king and queen. So wherever Prince William goes, guess what? He's still a what? Prince. He comes here, they call him what? Prince. That's right. Wait a minute now. We are kings and queens of the Most High God. But listen to how people talk to each other. It's like poisonous snake. All they do is try to degrade and put down. But the Bible says that no corrupt communication proceeds out of thy mouth unless there be what? To edify one another. You listen to the conversations and it's all victimized. And yes, I'm pretty hard. I don't want to hear. Now, if you ain't coming with a solution, let me tell you this part of it. And now we have to be able to get up and stand up, because the Bible says that death and life are where? In the power of tongue. Let's pull together and start promoting entrepreneurial spirits into our children. Let's start finding what the needs of the community are and start reaching out and meet their needs. But where do we start first? At home. Right. Too many people try to run out, try to take care of home first. Guess who's invited to our thing down there? Bethlehem Church only. Now, once we finish that, if somebody else want to do it, then that's fine. Some of the time, people got to know you got to take care of home first. First in Jerusalem, then what? To the othermost parts of the world. I just want to come behind him, and I want you to just change the way you talk to your children. Give them a mindset of a king and a queen. Stop accepting seeds like that. That's okay, because that's the bar you just set for them. That's at the mid-level. Make them think at the top level. The goal should be all A's, but okay, start somewhere and start moving up. You may not come throwing all at once, but you can get them. And above all, but above everything else, remember the power of agreement. Especially if you're married and have children. You grab hands and say, come on, we touch and agree, because if one can put 1,000 to a flight, and two can put 10,000 to a flight, you don't send your children out unprotected. Right. Come here. Let me hear you. Father God, we thank you that he goes out or she goes out, and they're going to go out with safety, and they're going to come back with safety. That anything that he harmful or she is harmful, we cast that out. Father, I thank you that my daughter is acting a life of a queen. She's growing. I thank you that I see this king that is in my son. He's joining things like the Student Government Association. He's going to go into politics so he can change the world. But listen to people and listen to their conversation with their children. They are giving children nicknames of negative things. And then they laugh. So you're going to be just like your dad. You ain't going to be nothing. Well, but you in church every Sunday. Amen. And if I'm not mistaken, I've heard you say that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. Amen. And are called according to his purpose. Huh? I heard you say that we can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. It is too many people in the church that has the futility of lip service. They come to be seen, and that's it. But I challenge people where I go. You have the authority to make the difference. Don't wait for others. I thank the Father that every pew in the church is filled. Hallelujah. I thank him that there's a redemptive reality of what's going on right now in the world. I thank the Father that he is beginning right now to anoint each and every one of you with the spirit of change, understanding that every purpose that he's given you is a purpose to bless someone else. Like me and your pastor, we met through Patrick. And in meeting through Patrick, it's interesting because I was talking to him in the office about this. It's never really about me being in a certain position of us meeting each other. This Tuesday, we're going to be having dinner with the board of directors that manages a $1.4 billion company, right? And that was never for me. We hired him now as our IT manager. He's the highest IT representative in the United States, Americas, for our company, which is in South Carolina, Georgia, and Vance, Alabama. But guess what? And I was telling him, he's not up in that position for him. There are several other things that he has to feed other people and keeps it moving. Amen. There's never just for you. Huh? It's for you to be used as a vessel to get to someone else. Because as soon as you tell somebody else, guess what the other person will do? They're going to hear that same situation and say, I got the advice on that, you know. I have probably I helped a friend of mine, I guess it's been a while back, start a temporary agency. And starting a temporary agency, he only started off with 4 people, now he has almost 100. Right? Amen. Excellent. He said that I need an admin person. Perfect situation. I said, oh, my sister was looking for a job. He says, okay. Guess what I did back then when I did that? I seeded that operation for her to get that job. Mm-hmm. You see where I'm going with this? And when you release your seed, understand that when I release my seed, I release it for specificity. Father, this is a new house I want to get, and start with my other rentals that I have. I'm letting going to grow up as being a coin, because that's what I planted. So when I release my seed for multi-millionaire status, that's what I want them angels to do. Grab that money, go to work, and put me in that multi-millionaire status. So now we got to realize that the angelic force works for who? Us. But how many of you assigned them anything? Oh, no. Father, I thank you that I release my angelic force to go forth, glory be to God, and to remove all harm and danger out of my way. Father, I thank you about whatever new business deal that you're going to be ready to bring me, that I'm in mind, body, and soul. I'm ready 100%. I receive it by faith. I'm going to do it by faith. I'm going to leave you with this. God never blessed you to bless you. He blessed you to go through someone else to bless someone else. But guess what? You still get the blessing. So anytime you find yourself puzzling or over anything, always remember that he's doing it for somebody else too. And no company can get rid of you. If you apply for a company like he said and you didn't get the job, say thank you, Father, that you have opened the door up for another opportunity to show people how strong you are on my behalf. See, I thank you that I didn't walk into that mine that they had on for me, and you put me in the exact company I want, the exact position I want, and I didn't accept that, God, because I'm not going to run back over here. Will y'all please? No. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to start rejoicing. I'm going to start praising God because I dodged a bullet over there.
Right.
Why do I say that? Because all things work for them that love and are called according to his what? His what? Each and every one of you have a purpose to build people up. Every adult in this church, every youngster in this church is your son or your daughter. They should be treated the same way. You should be blessing them on a constant basis. It's not a singular thing. This is a corporate vision in the house. Always build them up. Even if you have to go that far and have them have their own creed, and every Sunday when they stand up, they recite. Father, I thank you that I got a 4-year scholarship and it's paid in full. Father, I thank you that when I turned 16, my dad and mama already got the money for my car. Why? What do children want at 16?